Welcome to Soul Stories, where every tale touches the heart and inspires the soul. The school auditorium buzzed with excitement. Children laughed and ran around in tiny costumes, paper crowns slipping off, fairy wings fluttering, and cardboard swords clanking on the floor. Amid the cheerful chaos, Hannah crouched beside a box of tangled ribbons, trying to sort them out before the big school play began. The faint scent of paint, glue, and chalk filled the air, the familiar smell of her daily world. She loved this part of her job, helping children bring stories to life. But today something felt different. Maybe it was the soft piano music playing from the rehearsal hall, or the faint drizzle tapping against the window panes. The afternoon had a lonely kind of beauty. A gentle tug on her sleeve broke her focus. Hannah looked down to find a little girl standing there. Tiny, delicate, with chestnut hair neatly tied into two perfect pigtails. Her uniform looked freshly ironed, her shoes polished to a shine, yet her eyes held an ache no child her age should carry. "Ma'am," the girl began, her voice barely a whisper. "Can you pretend to be my mom for the school play?" For a second, Hannah froze, unsure if she had heard right. "Pretend to be your mom?" she repeated softly. The little girl nodded, twisting the hem of her dress nervously. Her lips trembled and her lashes blinked fast, as though trying to hold back tears. Hannah knelt so their eyes met. "Sweetheart, what's your name?" "Ella," the girl replied, her voice fragile but polite, the kind of voice that came from a child used to being careful. "Where's your mom, Ella?" Hannah asked gently. Ella hesitated, glancing toward the stage where other kids were being greeted by their parents. Hugs, laughter, camera flashes everywhere. Her small shoulders sank. "I don't have one," she whispered finally. "Daddy says she's in heaven and he's always busy." The words hit Hannah like a quiet blow. She saw the loneliness behind that practiced smile. The way Ella's eyes followed every mother in the room, as if memorizing the feeling of being loved. "Oh, sweetheart," Hannah murmured, brushing a stray hair from her cheek. "Of course I'll be there for you." Ella's face brightened instantly. "Really?" "Really?" Hannah smiled, tying a ribbon on the girl's costume. "Let's make sure you shine on that stage, okay?" And somewhere in that noisy backstage corner, something small but powerful began. A bond neither of them knew would change their lives forever. The school auditorium was alive with laughter and applause. Rows of parents filled the hall, their faces glowing with pride as they waved phones, ready to capture every moment of their children's big night. The air smelled faintly of fresh flowers and stage paint. The colorful curtains shimmered under the soft golden lights, and the cheerful hum of anticipation echoed through the room. But near the center of the front row sat a lonely seat, reserved for Mr. Adrian Cole. The elegant white card with his name gleamed under the spotlight, untouched, unmoved, waiting. Backstage, Ella peeked through the small gap between the curtains. Her bright eyes dimmed as she scanned the crowd. Parents were whispering, waving, smiling at their kids. Mothers held bouquets. Fathers clapped proudly, but her seat was still empty. "He didn't come again?" she whispered, her tiny shoulders slumping. Hannah stood behind her, feeling her chest tighten. She wanted to say something comforting, but the words stuck in her throat. She could only rest a gentle hand on Ella's shoulder. "Maybe he's just late," she offered softly. Ella nodded, though her face betrayed no hope. She had heard that before, too many times. The principal's voice crackled through the backstage mic. "We're missing one parent volunteer for the family scene. Miss Hannah, could you fill in, please?" Hannah blinked. "Me?" "Yes, just step in for a few lines," the principal urged. "You'll play the mother." For a heartbeat, Hannah hesitated. Then she saw Ella looking up at her with those pleading eyes, the same eyes that had whispered that small, heartbreaking request earlier that afternoon. So she smiled. "All right," she said. "Let's do this together." The music began, soft and sweet. As the curtains rose, Hannah walked onto the stage beside Ella, gently holding her hand. In that moment, the world outside disappeared. The lights washed over them, warm and golden. Ella's little fingers tightened around hers as she delivered her lines. Her voice trembled at first, but when she looked up and saw Hannah's reassuring smile, her courage bloomed. For the audience, it was just another charming scene in a school play. a little girl and her mother sharing a tender moment. But for Hannah, the feeling that rose inside her wasn't acting. When Ella smiled up at her, eyes shining with trust and belonging, Hannah felt her heart melt, a quiet, unfamiliar ache that whispered, "This is what love feels like." And somewhere in the dark, an empty seat waited, holding the absence of a father who didn't yet realize what he was missing. The applause thundered through the auditorium as the children took their final bows. The lights shimmered across their smiling faces, and proud parents stood, clapping and cheering. Backstage, Hannah held Ella's hand, both glowing with joy. The little girl had done beautifully, every line perfect, every gesture graceful. Her happiness, however, flickered every few seconds toward the audience, toward the seat that was supposed to hold her father. Then suddenly, the doors at the back burst open. A tall man in a dark tailored suit entered, his breath uneven, his tie loosened, and worry written all over his face. He paused, scanning the crowd until his eyes landed on the small figure standing on stage. Adrian Cole. The name whispered across magazines and financial columns. A man known for power, control, and an empire built on precision. But in that moment, he looked nothing like the headlines. His hair was slightly ruffled from running. His phone hung forgotten in his hand. And when his gaze found Ella, everything else, meetings, deadlines, deals, simply faded away. For a heartbeat, he just stood there, watching his daughter smile at someone else. At Hannah. She knelt beside Ella, fixing her crown, her expression soft and maternal. And when Ella turned to hug her tightly, Adrian felt something break inside him. Guilt. He had missed it all. The curtains closed and the applause softened. Parents rushed forward to congratulate their children, filling the air with laughter. Adrian hurried toward the backstage door, his expensive shoes silent against the floor. When he finally reached them, Ella looked up, eyes widening in surprise. "Daddy!" she squealed, running to him. He knelt, wrapping her in his arms, the scent of her hair, the small warmth of her hands, all reminders of what he had been too busy to cherish. "I'm so sorry I missed it," he whispered. "I tried to make it in time." "It's okay," she said quietly, though her voice trembled. "Ma'am was with me." He glanced at Hannah then, really looked at her. She stood a few steps away, smiling kindly, holding Ella's forgotten prop. Her presence radiated calm and warmth, the very things his house had been missing. "Thank you," he said after a long pause, his tone soft, almost fragile, "for being there for her. I've missed too many moments." Hannah's smile didn't fade, but her words were firm. "She doesn't need your money, Mr. Cole," she said gently. "She just needs her dad." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was awakening. For the first time in years, the man who had everything realized what he truly lacked. Weeks passed, and the echoes of that school play lingered longer than either Hannah or Adrian expected. Something had changed. Quietly, naturally. Adrian Cole, once known for living behind glass office walls and endless meetings, began showing up more often, not in polished suits or with his phone glued to his ear, but with sleeves rolled up and a hesitant, almost boyish smile. He started small, picking Ella up from school, attending her art shows and sitting on tiny wooden chairs during parent-teacher meetings. The first few times he felt awkward, out of place. But each time he saw his daughter's eyes light up when she spotted him, something inside him softened. Hannah watched it all from the sidelines, how the cold, distant CEO slowly turned into a gentle, attentive father. She helped Ella with school projects, often inviting Adrian to join. At first, he didn't know how to glue paper or mix paint without ruining it. But Ella's giggles filled the air, and even Hannah found herself laughing. What began as short visits soon turned into evenings spent together. Adrian would sometimes bring dinner, often takeout, because he couldn't cook to save his life, and they'd eat in Hannah's cozy kitchen, surrounded by warmth and laughter instead of silence and screens. The three of them built something unspoken but real. Ella started sleeping better, drawing happier pictures, ones that had 3 figures instead of 2. And each time Adrian looked at those drawings, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, belonging. One rainy evening, as thunder rolled softly outside, Ella sat between them, coloring while Hannah washed dishes. Adrian leaned against the counter, watching her with quiet admiration. "She's smiling more," he said softly. "I haven't seen her this happy since before her mom passed." Hannah turned, her eyes kind. She just needed someone to be present. Love doesn't have to be perfect, just real. Before Adrian could respond, Ella came running, her little hands reaching for both of theirs. She looked up at them with a grin so wide it could melt any heart. "Now I don't have to pretend anymore," she said proudly. "I have a real family." Hannah froze and Adrian's eyes glistened. He squeezed his daughter's hand, then reached for Hannah's too. Their fingers brushed, hesitant but warm. In that moment, surrounded by laughter, rain, and love that didn't need words, Adrian realized something he never learned in business. Home wasn't a place you built. It was the people who waited for you to show up. For the first time in his life, the lonely CEO felt truly rich.